Begin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to welcome you this evening to this forum. This forum, by the way, is being sponsored by Pottawatomie County Advocates for Voter Education. We are a new voter education group, and if the name is too lengthy for you, just remember we are known as PAVE, P-A-V-E. And just remember, we are here to pave the way for you to make a more informed decision by having these forums. At this time, I would like to invite you to stand, and our PAVE President, Marilyn Bradford, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, position pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to thank a few people. First of all, the City of Shawnee for allowing us to have this facility tonight. We need to also thank all of our candidates for participating this evening, and the mayor's candidates out in the main seating. Also the Countywide Sun and the Shawnee News Star for their excellent coverage, and for Shawnee CTV for filming this forum, and also for the playbacks that you'll be able to see later. I'd also like to thank former PAVE members for sponsoring this forum here this evening. At this time, I want to review, let's go over our ground rules. Each candidate will be invited to make opening and closing remarks limited to 2 minutes each, a closing statement limited to 1 minute each. After opening statements, the forum will be open to written questions from the audience. Questions will be issue-based, and all candidates or spokespersons for the same position question will be given the opportunity to respond if they so desire. Responses to questions will be limited to 2 minutes each. Workers will screen questions in advance to eliminate duplications and inappropriate questions. Candidates will receive notification of expiration of time when speaking or responding to questions at the following intervals: 30 seconds, and then at time of expiration. We will be strict on the time of expiration, so gentlemen, ladies, if you are still speaking, you will be cut off. Campaign materials, including clothing, may not be displayed inside the room in which the forum is held. Please check with forum organizers in advance, which they have all done. This time, we will do the commission seats first, and then our mayor's race will be second. We also are going to go in alphabetical order. We did not draw straws tonight, so we will start with Ward 2, and first candidate will be Jerry Chastain.
Thank you. Good evening, folks. My name is Jerry Chastain, and I want to be your new city commissioner for Ward 2. I want to thank the members of PAVE for this opportunity to express my goals for the future of our great city. I've been married to my wife Betty for 28 years and have lived in Shawnee for 30 years. I know what the citizens of Shawnee want. First and foremost, they want to be heard. They are tired of being ignored, tired of their concerns falling on deaf ears, tired of the I don't care attitude they get from City Hall. I know how to listen. The most important issue facing Shawnee is the hiring of a new city manager. We must use extreme caution in the selection process. We need to take our time and employ a professional firm to find the best qualified candidates possible. Otherwise, we may end up with one as ineffective as the last. A city manager should not be hired until the new commission takes office in November. We need to continue our efforts concerning our water supply, and we have to start dealing with our aging infrastructure. Water supply lines, treatment plants, and distribution. Some of our systems are 100 years old and desperately need our attention. It has been said that I oppose sidewalks, and that's just not true. I oppose sidewalks that go nowhere, that will never connect in our lifetime. Let's take care of the sidewalks we already have, set in motion a comprehensive plan for sidewalks that connect so all citizens can use them. We need to address our trash collection problem and get the service we are paying for. I will be your voice at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. You have just heard from candidate Jerry Chastain, running for Commission Seat 2. Next will be candidate Frank Sims.
Good evening. My name is Frank Sims, candidate for Ward 2. I was born in Shawnee, Oklahoma, during the state's bicentennial, and I celebrated my bicentennial during the state's centennial last year. Pretty good birthday party. I've lived in Shawnee all my life. In 1904, my grandfather, William Frank Sims, was elected police chief. In 1912, his brother Ira served as police chief. My grandfather served as a county commissioner, and then my dad, Sim K. Sims, has volunteered within the city on various boards and commissions for over 30 years. I feel like it's my turn to step up and serve this community. I've heard a lot about change and new directions. I believe we all need to be going the same direction. Shawnee has a lot of opportunities in front of us. We're poised for some great growth, but we've got to get on the same page, and I think I can help do that. Relative to my other life in Shawnee, I spent 7 years as the president of the Shawnee Home Builders Association. I was elected president of the State Home Builders Association in 1989. I currently serve as a state tourism commissioner. I was appointed in 2004 by Governor Henry and was reappointed to that seat in 2007. So I've got a great deal of experience in state government and working with government. And as I've traveled the state with the Tourism Commission, I've seen all of the other communities, and I've seen I know actually what we have in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and we can together make Shawnee the place to be. Thank you.
Thank you. You have just heard from candidate Frank Sims, running for Commission Ward Seat 2. Next, we will begin with Ward 3 candidate James Herrick.
Thank you very much for having this forum. I know that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate everyone coming out to see, to hearing what everyone has to say. I also appreciate the TV station and a replay so that other people at home that couldn't come tonight can watch it. I've served on the City Commission 4 years ago. I served a term under City Manager Terry Powell. Most of you, I'm sure, know Terry, and some of you liked him, and some of you didn't. But anyhow, he was a strong leader, and that's one thing that we're missing now is we need strong leadership within the City Commission and then to hire a city manager. I have 30 years experience as superintendent of schools. I have a bachelor's degree from East Central, master's degree from OU, an educational specialist degree from OSU. I have 12 years experience in business in Shawnee. I have 7 years experience as a general contractor in Seminole back in the 70s and 80s. The most important things that I think that we have to address at this time is, again, hiring a city manager. And I don't know how you feel about the trash pickup and the trash and everything else, but I know that a lot of us are really upset and concerned about that. We're upset and concerned about our water distribution system and things like that. And I know that I have the leadership ability to help solve those problems, and we were addressing them and moving on our way 4 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. You have just heard from candidate James Herrick. Next, we will hear from candidate Marva O'Neill.
Hello, I'm Marva O'Neill. I'm not a very good speaker, but I'm a very good listener. And I appreciate you continue to support me to be your city commission. I will rest assured that I will support the older part of Shawnee. Also, I will support the elderly, the retired, and the youth. The older ones are the cause of Shawnee being what it is today. The younger ones need a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. You have just heard from candidate Marva O'Neill for Ward 3, Commission seat. At this time, we will begin our question and answer portion of this forum. First of all, our first question, and this is to all the candidates, so we'll go backwards this time. We'll start with Frank Sims. What qualities would you look for in the next city manager?
I think it's a critical job for Shawnee. I do believe we need to move forward. I think we have a very competent commission. We've elected people to be in those chairs, and I think we need them to start the process moving forward. There's a good chance that it may continue into November and after the elections when we finally can get someone hired, but we can't let business just sit, if you will, for the next 6 months or so. Relative to the person, I think we've got to have a visionary. I don't think we can just look forward to next week or next month. I think we need to look down the road 10 years. Our city is facing some serious issues with infrastructure, and it's going to take a leader to come into the city manager's role. I believe that the council hires the city manager, and he is responsible for all of the folks underneath him, all of the department heads. And we need to let him do his job. We need to direct him, but we need a strong leader in that position and allow him to do his job. Thank you.
Candidate Frank Sims. Next, candidate Jerry Chastain.
Well, it is important, our selection for a city manager, but I don't think we need to rush. We have a very competent acting city manager right now. In fact, she just hired a planning commissioner that we haven't had for what, 3 years or so, something like that. So she's quite capable of doing the job until we can locate and find the right person for this job. We do not need to rush into it, and we need some professional help finding the type of city manager that we need. Qualifications, naturally he should be able to do the job when he gets here, and like Frank said, we need someone with a vision for Shawnee, or just a vision so that he can take us a little bit further than where we are now. But I would certainly look at background and what his experience is before even considering a new city manager.
Thank you, candidate Jerry Chastain. Next, candidate James Herrick.
I don't think the commission should hire of course we'll know after July the 29th what the complexion of the commission is going to be and what the complexion of the mayor and so forth. But I don't know that they should hire anybody until the new commission is seated. And the reason I say that, I think that they should know, the person that's hired should know who they're going to work for and who they're going to work with. Now, we're going down the same road we went down before when we hired the last city manager, and we're advertising and we're putting out information, but we don't have a set of criteria that details what kind of a person we want. So to be able to do that, someone's going to have to sit down and make those details, make that information out, and someone's going to have to take the time to do an advertisement. And that's probably the reason that I think that maybe a headhunter or some organization, some search team, or someone else should be hired to do that, because they have that qualification. I think that those that send their application in that are advertised on the advertisement should be looked at. And I hope the commission would have an opportunity to look at every application that's made. Hiring a person like that or a headhunter doesn't mean that they can select the person for you. And they provide the application for you, they do the research for you. And I think the existing commission needs to go to the town or where the person's working and observe them and see what the community thinks about them for a final decision is ever made.
Thank you, candidate James Herrick. Next, candidate Martha O'Neill.
I would like to share and say also, we need a city manager that has a vision for the city and not a micromanager or anyone like that. And I also say that a city manager that when you call the city hall, he has interests of the people and work with them closely so that things can get done and be done for our city and grow to be one of the best cities there is.
Thank you, candidate Martha O'Neill. Next question, and this also is to all candidates. What are the top 5 issues facing Shawnee in the next 5 years? And we will start with James Herrick.
Well, probably the top one is the city manager. The next one is probably the water. And from there on down, because the city manager is the one that hires his own personnel. I'd hope that he'd come in and take a look at the new person that was just hired the other day, and then take a look at all the department heads and evaluate them, give him an opportunity to prove themselves. The third thing is probably to me is trash and getting the city, making the contractor that we have now follow the contract. We're just letting him, the separation commission, just letting him do whatever he wants to do. That's obvious from looking around town. So that'd be number 3. I don't, other than those 3, I don't, the water is probably number 2 after finding the city manager.
All right. Candidate Martha O'Neill, what do you believe are the top 5 issues facing Shawnee in the next 5 years?
I do believe that we need a new city manager. We also need to revitalize our downtown Shawnee, and the water issue is one of our main issues because it's our natural resources and we can't live without water. And also the trash pickup is, but as you all know, the present city manager of Allies has been fired, and we have a new manager, and he will meet the commissioner at our next meeting.
Candidate Frank Sims, what do you believe are the top 5 issues facing the city of Shawnee in the next 5 years?
I think first and foremost, we've got to improve our communication and our ability to work together. As you've heard, there's 2 very separate and distinct ideas on how the city manager should be selected, whether the current commission should look at that or whether it should be down the road as soon as the new commission is elected, and perhaps hiring a headhunter or a firm to screen those applicants. So I think communication and getting together and working together for the future is our first priority. We have to be on the same page. I'm very worried about the city manager and getting that position filled. I think that we've got the opportunity to move forward, but we've got to have a city manager in place. And it's great that we've got an interim, but she has a job as well. So it's important that we address that issue quickly. I think the third thing that is probably the biggest problem facing Shawnee, Oklahoma is the dilapidated infrastructure of our community with water and sewer. It's estimated about $40 million worth of repairs need to be done to our water and sewer lines, and most particularly the distribution line from the lake. Very clearly, that ties into our water issue. I do live by the lake, and I think that's not only an opportunity for a water source, but I think there's also some recreational opportunities with the lake, and very clearly we didn't have that opportunity for several years. And that's a quality of life issue along with parks. And finally, I think our streets are a critical need, which is part of infrastructure. But we've got to get a handle on that and get in front of the problem instead of behind it.
Thank you. Candidate Jerry Chastain, what do you think are top 5 issues?
I think the top 5 issues facing Shawnee, number 1, and most of us here are pretty much on the same page with this idea. We need to have a city manager. We have to address our water problems and our infrastructure. Our trash pickup needs to be overhauled, looked at, revisited, whatever you want to call it. We need to do something about it. Our street program is an ongoing program that's being taken care of now. I think those are the most important things that we're doing, and one of those, I'll add another one. We need to start being business friendly. We need to be business friendly to businesses that are already located in Shawnee, and we need to be business friendly to get new businesses in here and not have them jump through hoops over and over and over in order to build a building or do some kind of business here. It's hurting us. We have a reputation outside Shawnee that this is not a business friendly city. We need to change that.
Thank you. This next question, we'll start on my right. I think all of you can answer this in 2 seconds. Does J.T. Weedman support your candidacy?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Chesson?
Well, I hope so, because I can't win all the votes without his vote.
Oh, that was politically correct. Marva?
No, Mr. Whitman said I'm not a dependable voter for his interests.
James Harris, please.
I'm sorry, I don't have to have somebody to support my candidacy. We can make our own ads and do everything ourselves. I'm sorry, that's, I don't know how JT gets blamed for everything, but anyhow,
That was a quick question. We'll move on. Next question, and this is also to all candidates running. If elected as a commissioner, would you vote to approve a code of ethics for the Shawnee City Commission? Mr. Herring.
I think that there already exists a code of ethics. You have to sign a deal when you take office, and you tell what you'll do and what you don't do. I don't know what they mean by code of ethics. There is an ethics that you have to assign now by the state when you're elected.
Marva O'Neill, same question. If elected as a commissioner, would you vote to approve a code of ethics for the Shawnee City Commission?
I think the code of ethics is already in place, and all we have to do is follow the protocol.
Frank Sims.
Absolutely. If there's a code of ethics, I would sign it and live by it.
Mr. Chastain.
Well, don't we take an oath of office when we
Yes.
are sworn in? Isn't that a code of ethics?
Yes.
I don't know. I'd have to read this code of ethics and find out what's
Judge Jones
expected.
comes down here and swears again if you're elected.
Yeah. Okay. I'd have to read it and look it over real good.
Okay, our next question to all candidates. Will you be willing to set policy and let the next city manager run the city? Jerry Chastain.
Set policy and let the next city manager run the city. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be done? That's my understanding, that the commission, the mayor and the commissioners set policy. They point the city in the direction that they would like for it to go, turn over to the city manager, and he takes care of it.
Thank you. Frank Sims.
Absolutely. I think that's the way our charter is structured, and I think that it's important that we do find that leader because it's an opportunity, again, for Shawnee to see some significant growth with the right guy. And I do believe that the commission directs the manager, who in turn directs the city employees.
James Herring.
Absolutely. I think that serving superintendent schools for 30 years, and my responsibility was to make recommendations to the Board of Education. The city manager's responsibility is to make recommendation about policies and ordinances and so forth to the city commission. And I developed for the city commission, when I was on the commission before, an evaluation instrument that we used to evaluate our former city manager, Terry Powell. And it's one that was nationally used to evaluate superintendents, which is about the same thing. We changed it to fit city manager. So, yeah, I mean, that's the only way we can operate.
Thank you. Marva O'Neill, the same question.
Yes, and I think we should approve, that.
Next question, and again, this is to all candidates running. Do you think a commissioner stopped by police for driving under the influence should be arrested like any other citizen and allowed to remain on the commission? Frank, go ahead. Take this one.
You know, I think very clearly, as part of that code of ethics is living by and supporting the laws of our community. And so if a commissioner was arrested or stopped, I very clearly think they should see the hoos cow and should see no special treatment. Was there a second part to that today?
No, there's not a second part. Well, yeah, there is a second part. Would they be allowed to remain on the commission?
That's a good question. I think that that's certainly something that the commission would make a decision on. I don't know that, everyone can make a mistake. I think that maybe the commission should look at that, whether or not, at each situation.
Jerry Chastain, same question.
Well, I'm like Frank on that one. I think he should be treated just like any other citizen. If he's arrested and he's legally intoxicated, just go through the procedures with him or her like they do anybody else. They're no different. They don't get any special favors. We're here to serve the people. We're elected, and we should be treated like everybody else.
Marva O'Neill, same question. Read it again. Do you think a commissioner stopped by police for driving under the influence should be arrested like any other citizen, and should they be allowed to remain on the commission?
Yes, I think they should be arrested like any other citizen, because no one should be above the law, and they shouldn't be in there for their personal gain.
Mr. Harry?
Yeah, you got my interest up, or somebody has. I just wonder if some commissioner's been arrested and, been stopped, not been arrested or treated fairly, or, like the rest of it. I don't think anybody's above the law, and if you're arrested, you're guilty, then, you need to face up to it. And whether he serves on the commission or not, it's according to, I don't think, I'm not gonna be arrested, DWI or drinking or anything else. I don't know whether they should serve or not. I don't think they should serve, but I'm gonna say I'm not gonna be arrested, so it doesn't matter to me whether they are or not. But it does create a little problem. It does create a little interest to find out if that's happened in the past with that question. Maybe it has, and I'm not aware of it.
We'll move on to the next question. Marva O'Neill, what can the city do to better combat crime?
Hire more police officers and put in more street lights.
Thank you. Same question to candidate James Harrod. What can the city do to better combat crime?
Well, I think the city commission has a a moratorium on hiring, so I think that until they take that off, you can't hire anymore. I think there's about 4 or 5 openings today that they could fill if there wasn't a hiring moratorium. So I agree with Marva. I think we need to have, fill the positions that are open today and put them out on the street where they can do good. I don't know that street lights are a deterrent to crime. I think that sometimes they give the person a way to see to do the crime. We left the car sitting in Dallas and right under a street light in a hotel, and the window was broken out, and an electronic device was stolen out of it. And I'm not sure if it wasn't sitting on that street light, it would have been broken into. It would have been sitting back in the dark where they couldn't see. I'm not sure it would have been.
Thank you. Same question to candidate Jerry Chastain. What can the city do to better combat crime?
Well, I think an increased police presence on the streets and in our communities, in our neighborhoods, would be a good deterrent to crime. you're not ever going to be able to stop all crime. My daddy said that locks just keep honest people honest, and that's about what they're good for. But I think an increased police presence in all of our neighborhoods would go a long way to decrease our crime. I do.
Candidate Frank Sims, same question.
When I was in high school, I had to be home at 10 o'clock on school nights, and I had to be home at midnight on the weekends. And I think I'm a strong believer in curfews. I think we have to give the police the tools to work with to take that crime off the street. And part of that may be a curfew to keep kids on the right track at the right times. I was appalled watching the show Chief, I believe is what it was called, several years ago, with Chief Chitwood and riding around in a police car in Shawnee. I had no idea what actually went on behind the scenes in Shawnee, and I hope most of you had the opportunity to see it and opened your eyes a little bit to the problems we face. I'm a huge advocate not only to give the police the proper tools, but many times the streets of Shawnee, there's 4 officers that are riding herd over 30,000 people. I think we need to fully fund the police department, and unfortunately we need to pay them. People who start in Shawnee, Oklahoma are paid in the low 20s to start, and competing departments around the area are well above 30. It's going to take some money, and it's going to take some commitment from the city to increase our security and reduce crime.
Thank you. Next question is directed to all candidates. What are your thoughts as what needs to happen with the lake lease property at Shawnee Lake? Candidate Jerry Chastain.
Repeat that again.
Let me read this correct. What are your thoughts on what needs to happen with the lake lease property at Shawnee Lake?
Well, I don't think anything needs to happen to it. I mean, we have leaseholders that's out there that have homes out there, and I believe it was back in the late 90s that I suppose the city commission passed a resolution or passed a law that said that it was okay to build out there on their lots, have permanent structures, and could live there year round. What's the problem? I don't see any problem with it. We don't need to do anything with it as far as I'm concerned.
Candidate Frank Sims.
Well, being a leaseholder, I certainly have certain opinions on that. You know, I think it all goes back to our water, the fact that that is our primary water supply, and I think that we do have to have some overview and enforcement over the leaseholders with their waste disposal and this type of thing. Recently, the commission has discussed the possibility of looking at sale of that property, and I would personally, I would like to buy it if I could. I'm very content and have been for the last 20 years being a leaseholder out there. I think that there are some significant problems around the lake, and I believe that if there was the opportunity to sell to individuals, it would generate a significant amount of money to address some pretty serious water issues, and money seems to be our shortfall beyond water several years ago. I'm no civil engineer, but I could easily see spending $1 million or more around the lake, cleaning out the watershed and the bar ditches. There's a lot of water when we have significant rain that never makes it into the pond. So I think that we've got to do everything we can to protect our water source. We've got to improve drainage and capture all the water we possibly can in the lake. But relative to the lease, I think it's however the commission would vote, whatever the citizens would believe.
Same question to James Harrod.
Well, I don't think the city needs to lose control over the property around the lake. That's our water supply. And if we can't keep a good hand on it and good control of it, and of course there's some of those lots out there, not very many, but a few of them belong to the School Land Commission. And so those would come under a different operation to sell than what the city would sell, and the city wouldn't receive the revenue out of it, the school land commission would. So I don't know, I did read in the paper about supposedly, I think one of the commissioners or the mayor said he raised $20 million. I doubt that. But I think that even at that, it would raise revenue for the city. But then on the other hand, you'd lose much more control of it because they have to be inspected annually, and the city the city code officials go out and look at the property and talk to the property owner, so you actually lose control. So I'd be opposed to anything that would jeopardize our water supply.
Marva O'Neill, same question. Sure. What are your thoughts on what needs to happen with the lake lease property at Shawnee Lake?
The lake lease property, I think they should maintain, because the citizens at the lake, most of them have put their whole life earnings into their lease, and let them enjoy themselves and be comfortable.
Thank you. This next question is to candidate James Herod. Two-part question. What did you accomplish 4 years ago when you served as commissioner? Second part, did you sue the city of Shawnee when you were on the board, and why?
What did I accomplish? Well, one thing that was accomplished was the evaluation of the city manager. A couple of the commissioners wanted to just arbitrarily fire the city manager, and so to help the situation, I told them we need to evaluate the city manager and give him an opportunity, if there was a problem, give him an opportunity to improve or to make to see what the problems were. And each one of the commissioners had an opportunity to do the evaluation, and each one of the commissioners then met with the city manager. The other thing is that the majority of the people wanted to stay with BFI, and everyone that contacted me, even if we had a cheaper price, wanted to stay with BFI. And I voted to stay with BFI, and we kept I call it a dump, you can call it whatever you want to, but out at Earlsburg was open. I don't understand why it was closed now. We don't have any place to take our extra limbs and things like that. You have to haul them to Midwest City, or you have to pay and take them to the country, or have somebody out in the country that you fill in a ravine, and so forth. The second part of that question is, yes, I sued the city, and the reason why is that the community development director and his department sent out a notice that had an incorrect address on it. As a result of that lawsuit, now then they not only put the legal address, they have to put the correct address, and they have to send out a location map with it. So there was a lot of good came out of it.
Thank you. Next question is to all candidates. What plan do you have to bring business to Shawnee? And we will start with candidate Jerry Chastain.
Well, we would have to look at that after a new commission is seated. I do not support spending $70,000 or $80,000 or $90,000 to give to a company to go out and tell us what kind of business we need in Shawnee. I've been in business for the last 35, 40 years, and if there is a business that wants to locate in Shawnee, you can rest assured they know more about us than we know about ourselves. They've already done the study. They know exactly our demographics, our people, their ages, and what their likes and dislikes are. I'd have to wait until I was seated on the commission and think that situation over and see what opportunities came up to see how we could how we could entice new business to Shawnee.
Candidate Frank Sims, same question.
Well, business is a broad word for, I think, for the question. Economic development is a very important part of our community, and finding and searching for quality jobs to bring to this community is critical. As we look at $4 gasoline, roughly, I believe 20% roughly of Pot County works in or around Oklahoma City. And at $4 a gallon, people are starting, I believe, will start evaluating the cost of transportation to go to those good jobs in Oklahoma City. I believe there's somewhere around 3,000 jobs at Tinker. And as you look at that cost, the odds are that people are going to move closer to their job, and we cannot afford to lose that. So we need quality jobs in Shawnee, Oklahoma, with better paying wages to keep our people here. I think the days of being a bedroom community may be slipping away. And so that is a big concern to me. I think we have a real opportunity with the proximity to Tinker and a lot of people who are trained in that area to recruit aviation type businesses to the airport and to the Shawnee area. So I think there's some real opportunities. I'm anxious to see the economic development team and how that comes together over the next a few weeks. But I think we have everything in our court right now, and as I said, I think we're primed for growth in Shawnee.
Thank you. Candidate Marva O'Neill, what plan do you have to bring business to Shawnee?
As I would say, the gasoline price is hurting everyone, but it probably helps Shawnee retail grow. That the increase of funding the city because the sales tax will grow. And at the same time, the gasoline prices will make the running of the city more expensive. And the new industry is needed, and I support working for that. When the budget is tight, I think we should fund the service first.
Thank you. Candidate James Herod?
That's an easy question for me. This is one of the issues the reason I'm running. We need to take a look at all of our ordinances, and we need to take a look at our different codes. The code enforcement people do a good job of enforcing them, but we need to take a look at them and see why in the world we have some of them. We had 3 years ago, we had a company that was trying to come to Shawnee. They tried to put they worked with the planning department. They put all the information together, the drawings, everything in the world, and 4 to 5 weeks later, they called me back. I'd been working on it with them, and they called me back and asked me, said, are you interested in doing some electrical work in Stroud? And I said, sure, what's the plan? Have you be backed out on Shawnee and building the new buildings? He said, we can't fight the battles anymore. We can't fight the battles anymore. Within 3 weeks, we had a contract with them working on their offices in Stroud, and they built 3 other buildings since then. They employ about 40 people. They run oil trucks out of there, delivering oil all over the state of Oklahoma. So we're just not, I agree with Jerry, we're not business friendly. We pass too many codes, too many ordinances and things like that, and that's one thing we need to take a look at. Because we're not letting the people, when they come in here with the information. We just had a church the other day, came in here and tried to build a building here in town, and it cost them, the architect estimated that it was about $120,000 to $150,000 more to build within the city limits of Shawnee than it was to build outside, because they build outside. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is to candidate Marva O'Neill and candidate James Herod. First, how do you feel about the Shawnee Beautification Committee? And trying to read this writing, and how do you feel about the Code Enforcement Office should perform their job to keep Shawnee looking good and not trashy? Candidate Marva O'Neill.
To help, excuse me, to help the code enforcement, I think we should wait until we get the new city planner in place that's been hired, and we let him do his job the way he has been known to do the job with his experience. And as we approve the department head, whether he's right or wrong, what he's doing, I think that would be, you have to follow the charter the way it's supposed to be done. And I think the city's being beautiful as it's going along, but yet I think that let the code inspectors do their job also and not be micromanaged.
Thank you. Same question.
Well, first of all, the code enforcement person that's responsible for the cleanup and the trash and the grass and things like that is one person, and it's on a complaint basis. So what he does is he gets his complaints, and then he goes out every day and he checks the property. He comes back to the office about noon, and then he spends the rest of the day writing up reports and calling people or sending out letters. Of course, according to the information I have, his hands have been tied on some of the projects, and he's not been allowed to report those. There's open building permits, there's open property that hadn't been taken care of, and people have been interfering with his job. But anyhow, they need to, he's just one man and he needs some help, and I think the city manager or acting city manager would agree with that. You can't cover Shawnee. It's too big, too large a city to have one person doing all that work.
Thank you. Next question, and this is also for all candidates. With gas prices soaring higher and higher, what plans do you have for bringing public transportation to Shawnee? Candidate Frank Sims.
That is a tough issue, and as we address a $40 million infrastructure problem and water shortages, mass transit is going to be a very costly proposition. I do think we are going to have to deal with that. I think our services in Shawnee are somewhat limited. I don't see probably in the very near future any rail traffic to Oklahoma City, unfortunately, which would be very beneficial to jobs and maintaining that bedroom community aspect. I think the biggest thing we can get on is the working with ODOT to see Amtrak connect Fort Worth to Newton, Kansas, and get that leg started. We've got to start somewhere, and if we can have a good north-south line, you'll see that growth spurred from that. Mass transit in Shawnee, I don't have an answer for that one. It doesn't work in Oklahoma City, I know, and we're a community that is too used, or a state actually, that's too used to driving our car from point A to point B, and we want to park at the front door. And it'll take a tremendous amount of capital to start that, and it will be an expensive ride once it starts.
Candidate Jerry Chastain, same question.
Well, public transportation is not going to be as hard as you would think it would be. There is state and federal money available to start an inner city or to start a city transit system. And Frank said that it's not working in Oklahoma City. Well, it will work in Shawnee. I know it will work in Shawnee. You wait till gas gets $5 a gallon and people's going to ride a bus. They're going to be forced to, whether you want to or not. But since World War II and all the boys came back home and they got pretty good paying jobs for that particular time, and they all bought cars, and gasoline was 18 cents a gallon and lower. And I remember when I got married back in the 60s, gasoline was 18 cents a gallon, and they had a price war of all things. And it got down to like 7 cents a gallon before the two stations decided to call it off. Well, we're not living in those times. And we need a long-range plan to put a public transportation system in Shawnee where you can leave your apartment go a short distance to a bus stop and go to see your doctor, go out to the hospital, go to the mall, do whatever, go to the grocery store, do whatever it is you need to do, and get back on that bus and come back home.
James Herod, same question.
Well, we've tried sorts of public transportation through the city commission. We paid an organization, I can't recall the initials of it, and we have several buses sitting down here at the city maintenance building, or city water department, I believe it's called. But anyhow, we've tried that, and we've paid for senior citizens, and we've contributed to them. We've bought buses, the home builders have bought buses, different organizations in town have bought buses, and that's, I mean, that attempt has been made. I think it'd come more after working now than it would have 5 years ago, and that's again because of $4 a gallon gasoline. But I'm not sure where that program is today, but I can tell you that part of our, I leave my house at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's probably a line of cars, leaving Shawnee, Oklahoma every morning on Interstate 40, and it's bumper traffic all the way to, I get off on 240, but all the way to downtown or to Tinkerfield or wherever it is in Oklahoma City. So we have a large group of people that are driving every day from here to Midwest City or here to Oklahoma City. Jim Townsend, for years, has been trying to get us to open up the railroad and provide a parking lot for everybody to park their cars, get on a railroad or on a train and ride to Midwest City and then on to Oklahoma City and destinations to there. So I think the railroad would be a good possibility for those people out, going to Oklahoma City.
Thank you. Candidate Marva O'Neill, same question.
I think the massive transportation would be great. I lived in a metro area, and I think the work here in Shawnee also outweigh that we need the rail system to help move it also.
Thank you. We're running out of time. This will be our last question of the evening because we do need to get on with the mayor's race and listen to those people. So here is our last question for these candidates, and we will start with candidate James Herod. What do you consider to be your responsibility concerning day-to-day operations of the city?
The city commission responsibility is to hire a city manager. We hire 4 people: the city manager, city judge, city attorney, and city treasurer. The responsibility for the day-to-day operation of the city is the city manager, and in this case, the interim city manager. So as far as any legal responsibility, or we can't come down here and tell the city manager, hey, I expect you to do A, B, C, because the only time we have an authority to do that as a commissioner is when we're in this meeting. Otherwise, we're just a citizen out here, just like everybody else is.
Same question to candidate Marva O'Neill.
We have 3, which is the city manager, the treasurer, and the finance director is mixed with the city treasurer and also the attorney. Those are the 3 that the city hired. And then we approve the department heads after the city to follow the protocol that they're supposed to follow. And the charter states what the requirements are, and we as commissioners should abide by those.
Thank you. Same question to candidate Frank Sims. What do you consider to be your responsibility concerning day-to-day operations of the city?
I think on a day-to-day basis, the commissioners are ambassadors for the city of Shawnee relative to the actual operation of the city. I think that we can take the concerns of the citizens. We're kind of the intermediary, if you will, to hear the concerns and focus those to the city manager for hopefully for some results from that direction. But I believe that it does all go through the city manager, and that would be the primary responsibility of keeping him informed of issues in various wards throughout the city and sharing those concerns, but primarily is listening to the people and being the conduit to get that information to the city.
Same question to candidate Jerry Chastain.
Well, I agree with all three of these folks sitting up here. That is what should be done, but what has been done in the past is micromanagement. And we can't have that. You can't have city commissioners or mayors telling the city manager what he's going to do. It doesn't work. And that's one of the reasons that we're in the shape we're in today in this city. We cannot do that. We have got to be ambassadors for Shawnee, I guess. What are we going to do, Frank? Are we going to go out and cut ribbons? Maybe what it boils down to. But we need to listen to the citizens. We need to listen to what you say. And then when we're in this chamber and we're called to order, that's when we act. And we point the city in the direction that we want it to go. And the city manager is to carry that direction out. He's to carry out our wishes.
Thank you. At this time, each candidate will have 1 minute for closing statements. Once again, we will go in alphabetical order. We will start with Ward 2, Jerry Chastain.
Thank you. It's truly been a pleasure speaking to you this evening. I'd like to tell you that we live in a great city with fantastic opportunities to be even greater. I want you to get excited about your city. I want you to get involved. If you want 4 more years of Jim Collard, Chuck Mills, and Linda Peterson's idea of how government should be run, turning a deaf ear to the citizens, then by all means vote for my opponent, Frank Sims. However, if you want Shawnee to move in a new positive direction, you want a commissioner that will listen to what you have to say, spend your tax dollars wisely, and make sure that you never have another project forced on you, then I need your vote. Vote for Jerry Chastain, July the 29th. It's the best thing to being on the city commission yourself. God bless you, and God bless Shawnee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will listen to candidate Frank Sims. He also has 1 minute for closing comments.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and appreciate PAVE hosting this forum tonight. I'm kind of like Carl Franklin. I ain't no lawyer and I ain't no politician. I've lived here for 50 years and I've become frustrated with what I've seen in the last couple of years, and I believe I can make a difference in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and on this city commission. This chair feels pretty good tonight, and I'd like the opportunity to sit in it for 4 years. I ask for your vote July 29th. Frank Sims, Ward 2. Thank you.
Thank you. You have just heard from the 2 candidates running for Ward 2. Next, we will hear from Ward 3 candidates. We will start with James Herod.
Again, I reiterate what the other 2 gentlemen have said, but I appreciate this opportunity. I had a lady call me a couple of days ago. She said, I've lived in Shawnee 39 years, and the city's in the biggest mess it's ever been and since I've lived here. Now, I was born in 1939, so that's 68 years she's been here, so I'd say she has some experience and some knowledge. If you want to continue with that mess, then you know, keep the same people in the commission. If you want changes, if you want leaders and you want something done, then we need to make some changes. And I'm offering you an opportunity to make a change. And I'd appreciate your vote on July the 29th. Thank you very much.
You've just heard from candidate James Herod. Next will be candidate Marva O'Neill.
Because I represent the people of Ward 3, and I'm not vindictive in the race for my personal gain. I appreciate your vote on the 29th of this month.
Thank you. You have just heard from Ward 3 candidates, James Herod and Marva O'Neill. Next, we will have the mayor's candidates approach and be seated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, we will start our second portion of this candidates forum, and we are now going to hear from the mayor's candidates running. Once again, this will be alphabetical order. We will start with Linda Agee.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm Linda Agee. I'd like to be your next mayor. And I have a few issues I just want to go over briefly because I only have 2 minutes. But I'll start out with water since that seems to be at the top of everyone's list. We have a water supply called the Shawnee Twin Lakes. That's the primary water supply. Unfortunately, it's been sadly neglected for many years. And this only came to light 2 or 3 years ago when we had the infamous water line break and the ensuing drought. Left us in a critical situation, and all of a sudden people woke up and said, oh wow, we didn't know the water was leaking because the maintenance on the tower, the flow meters, nothing had been done to detect that. So some work has been done, but there's still a lot left to be done. I also believe very firmly in pursuing our long-term water initiatives, which is participating with the Water Research Institute in the state's 50-year plan. And the coalition of cities that are pursuing a new water supply for the city's growth, right now that's the Sardis Lake. There are many other issues. If you can't distribute that water to where you need it, that's pretty serious. And right now there is no good backup supply or water supply. There is no backup pipeline in place. There's a 30-inch line leading from the Twin Lakes to the treatment plant. And the only backup line is very vulnerable. There's a $13 million price tag on that. So we're going to have to look for some federal funding for that. We have roads in disrepair. We have a freight rail system upon which many jobs are dependent. We need to enhance our airport to encourage economic growth. With city manager, very, very important that we take our time in doing whatever is necessary to bring a competent person on board. Code enforcement, quality of life issues, trash service, the parks, the pools, and budget, because nothing can be done without money. Thank you.
Thank you. You've just heard from candidate Linda Agee. Next, you will hear from candidate Matthew LaHue.
Hi, my name is Matthew LaHue, and I'm running for the office of mayor. I appreciate PAVE for inviting us to come and speak this evening. It's a great way to get our message out to the city and to the citizens that live there. Let me start out by talking just a little bit. I've grown up here. I was born here. I lived here 30 of my 31 years. Shawnee is a great place. I love it with all my heart, and I plan on staying here for quite a while. I've been lucky to have been here for as long as I have and live in such a great community. I'm running for this office to make Shawnee an even better place. Shawnee is great, but it has things that need to be worked on. We need a mayor that's going to be progressive. We need a mayor that's got a vision for the future, that's going to look forward, that looks past a year ahead, 2 years. We need to have a mayor that's going to have a vision for 5, 10, 15 years down the road. There are no quick fixes with a lot of the problems that we have facing us today, and that's why we need someone who's got a vision, and I believe that I'm the person that can get that done. We also need a mayor that's going to lead a commission in the same direction. The commission has been split for quite a while, and we need someone who is not divisive, who is a person that's going to bring them together. For Shawnee to move forward, we must have the commission moving forward together. And I believe that's where I have a strong suit, and I'm looking forward to being your next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. You have just heard from candidate Matthew LaHue. Next, we will hear from candidate Linda Peterson.
Thank you. As the other candidates, I also want to thank the organizers and the members of PAVE for allowing us to be here to share our thoughts with you about the future of this community. For those of you who may not know, I am a commissioner currently for Ward 5. My name is not Chuck Mills, it is Linda Peterson. My performance as a city commissioner these past 6 years is a matter of public record. If you review these records, you will find that I have established a reputation for listening to the citizens, for digging for facts, and for trying to find solutions to very complex issues. This was done while integrating viewpoints from many, many different sides. Also, I have done this while insisting that we follow the rules and the process that's in place. You will see that I have been here I have been here representing Ward 5 and you. I face the issues, I put in the time, and I understand what to do that is right. Sometimes the decisions are not easy, but doing the right thing is very important. I use my technical background to address technical issues, and I've also learned about the details of city budgets and fiscal responsibility. It takes time to build this level of experience and this in-depth understanding of the issues that Shawnee is facing. But you have to put in the time to make informed decisions. You have to solve the problems. You cannot have a knee-jerk reaction to the issue of the day. I hope that tonight we can talk about opportunities within our community, and I can share with you what I have learned through research, through experience, and through talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you. You have just heard from candidate Linda Peterson. Now we will begin our question and answer portion. And oh my goodness, let's just get this one out of the way first. Does J.T. Weedman support your candidacy? Have you met with him? Linda A.G.
Well, I'll repeat. I certainly hope so, because I can't have all the votes without his. Have I met with him? I will just say that I don't have the money to go out and hire a professional marketing agency to work with me on my campaign, so I'll take whatever help I can get. And yes, I have met with him.
Candidate Matthew Leahy?
No, and no.
I love it. That was precise. Candidate Linda Peterson?
Ditto. No and no.
Ditto. Okay. All right, this question is for all candidates. There is some dissatisfaction with the service provided by Allied Waste. What will you do to solve this problem? How can you get them to follow their contract? We will start with candidate Linda Peterson.
I do believe that there have been some, especially recent issues with Allied Waste, and one of the most important things that the commission requires is feedback from the citizens. We have to know when a service has not been provided to you. One of the things that I think is important with the contract that we have right now is holding the Allied Waste accountable to the contract. We have been reviewing that. City staff has been looking at that, and who knows, maybe that's why the administrator of the contract is no longer there right now. We have asked for an update for our commission meeting on Monday night, and I expect to ask some questions of that new manager. Things like, what will you do when someone calls? Are you going to make a promise and not hold it? Are you going to just say what you want us to hear? And what's going to be different when we make the phone call? Are we going to get Stillwater, or are we going to get Shawnee? And I think we have to look at what our contract says and what we can hold them to, because you know what? If they're not doing what their contract says, then we can do something different.
Thank you. Candidate Matthew Leahy.
I know that there are a lot of people in the city that are unhappy with the trash service. I know that there are a lot of people that did not want to go to the polycar system. As your mayor, I think it's important that we do look at the contract, and if the company is in breach of that contract, we need to take care of that issue as soon as possible, because sanitation is a very important service to the city. There's a lot of different reasons for that, but for the most part, it's something that the citizens demand, and when citizens demand something, we need to react to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Linda A.G.
In listening to the people, I have heard time and time and time again that they're very unhappy with the Allied Waste service, and it's because that they miss a lot of the pickup dates and times, but also because a lot of people are, especially small people, elderly people, people with physical limitations, are very unhappy with the large poly carts. So I think part of the problems that we're having are inherent in the contract that was approved. Unfortunately, unless they are violating that contract, I think it would be very difficult to terminate that contract. And we're only like 1 or 2 years into a 6-year contract. So I think that, like Linda Peterson said, we need to take a real good, long, hard look at that contract and find out if what the people are saying, and they do need to call and complain again and again and again if you have to, although I realize that's time consuming and cumbersome, but that may be the only option that we have to terminate that contract is with the number of calls that are received.
Next question is to all candidates. With the rising cost of energy, what would you do to reduce the city's energy usage and overall carbon footprint? Candidate Linda Peterson.
Very good question, and I believe that Sustainable Shawnee is doing some research for us to actually determine what our carbon footprint is. There is an initiative that is throughout the United States, through the U.S. Conference of Mayors, that is working on best practices for these types of activities. And they are things like, just turning off lights when you go into when you leave a room, LED lights on traffic signals, green roofs, green building codes, those types of things. And I think it's imperative that we look at the other 800 cities that are doing some things and follow their leads on this and follow what their best practices have been and use that where we can in our city and where that makes sense for us.
Thank you. Same question to candidate Matthew Lowe.
I believe that, number one, the city has to set, we have to lead the way and make sure that we do have a smaller carbon footprint. We are conserving energy, and the great thing about conserving energy also means that we're saving tax dollars. If the city can work with Sustainable Shawnee, which at this point they have, and find a way to save energy, whether it be changing light fixtures, whether it be looking at training for various departments on how they consume fuel, and if it looks at different types of vehicles that the city can use, that's something that we all need to look at. But the bottom line is reducing consumption is going to also reduce cost. And we can use that money to go to a lot of other projects that we are lacking at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Linda Agee, same question.
I think Mr. LaHue stole my line. I was going to say that by reducing consumption, we're also reducing cost. But also, I think that we could partner maybe with our universities and some of our students who are getting their graduate degrees in environmental sciences and work with them and other groups like Sustainable Shawnee to kind of leverage the money that we have to spend on doing this type of research. Certainly there are lights that can be timed, that can go on and off when people are not in a room or don't move around for a certain period of time. If you sit still for very long, you might find yourself in the dark. I did that when I worked for the federal government. But there are many, many ways to conserve energy. I do think that it's extremely important because it does affect the city's budget to pursue some of those alternatives.
Thank you. Next question is for all three candidates. We will start with candidate Linda Agee. Would you consider hiring a police chief from within the ranks? If no, why not?
Well, of course, that's not my job to hire the police chief. That would be the city manager. So my idea on the city manager is that whoever that is should be held accountable for acting in the best interest of the citizens, and it is his responsibility to hire and fire that police chief, and I would hold him accountable for doing what's right.
Same question, candidate Matthew LaHue.
Like Ms. Agee said, it is the job of the city manager to hire and hold accountable the department heads within the city. As for the second question, would one be promoted from within the ranks? I think our police department is wonderful. I think there are great officers within it. And I'm sure that there are a number of qualified applicants, but we need the best police chief that we can possibly have. And the city manager is the one who would make that decision. And of course, the city commission should have some input with the city manager.
Thank you, candidate Linda Peterson.
Well, it has been stated, and that is correct, that the city commission does not hire the police chief. We hire the city manager who fills the departments as he or she sees fit. If the city manager should see that someone needs to be promoted, I believe we have had that practice in the past. And we have department heads right now that have come from the ranks. And the fire chief is a perfect example of that right now. I mean, our current fire chief was promoted from within. So if our city manager saw fit to promote anybody in any department, that would be the recommendation that would come to us. On the issue of the police chief, that is for the city manager or the interim manager to evaluate at all times, and I would hope that through evaluations and performance appraisals that process will take its place.
Thank you. Next question is for all three candidates. We will start with candidate Matthew LaHue on this one. As a mayor who listens to people, what is your view about our police department and the officers' arbitration challenges against the present chief of police?
I think the commission's taken that up into account. I think our police department, as I said earlier, is a wonderful department. It's got wonderful officers. They do a great job. I think from an outside standpoint, me looking in, we're understaffed. The city needs to do more about that, but it comes down to dollars and cents. As for some of the arbitration issues, that's an internal matter that the department head, the chief, and the unions need to deal with. And if it comes any further, it will eventually go to the city commission and the city attorney, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Same question to candidate Linda Agee.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. As a mayor who listens to the people, what is your view about our police department and the officers' arbitration challenges against the present chief of police?
Okay, again, I'll have to agree with Mr. LaHue that this is a personnel matter. It's not something that would come before the commission. It is our job to hold the city manager accountable for running the city. If he is working with the chief of police to resolve those issues according to the laws that are on the books, and we're following the proper process, I think that's where my responsibility would end.
Thank you. Next question to all three candidates. Sidewalks have been a hot topic.
All about the
Sorry, we're moving on to the next question.
I
not that late
want you
either.
to duck that one, okay?
I don't want to leave you out either. You will hear from Linda Peterson, candidate.
As the other candidate said, this is a personnel matter, and we do not get involved at the commission level on a lot of issues like this. However, we do get involved when it begins to affect public safety. When citizens find or have complaints about officers who aren't responding, officers who didn't do what they thought they should do, or morale that's gone down, that's the time that we can give feedback to the city manager that this is what we're hearing, and leadership in the department should not affect the service that's provided to the citizens. And at that point, the city manager has to deal with that, and hopefully we can keep up communication between the two so that we understand what's going on.
Thank you. You have heard from candidate Linda Peterson. Next, this question is for all three candidates, and we will start with you, Mrs. Peterson. Sidewalks have been a hot topic. What are your thoughts?
Yes, it is a hot topic. Sidewalks have been an issue for a while in this town, and one of the reasons that it started was because we are working with the federal government because we have to do an analysis of our ADA compliance. And as we look at where we are in that and what we need to do, I think it's better for us to decide what steps we want to take to become compliant instead of having the federal government tell us what we'll do next and how we'll spend our money. We began with a group of stakeholders, users of sidewalks, builders of sidewalks, ordinance builders of sidewalks, and just got together and said, where can we start this? The city does have some funding that we put in every year for sidewalks, and that funding is to be used to connect some of the dots that are happening right now. We normally have done large sidewalk projects, but we have a new Trails Master Plan, which has has priorities for pedestrian pathways and just non-vehicular traffic. And sidewalks are the beginning of that. Where are our priorities for building sidewalks? We have a school system right now that has to reduce its bus routes because it doesn't have sufficient funds to fuel the buses, and children are going to have to walk to school now. So what are we going to do? How can we partner with the schools and build sidewalks so that those kids are not walking to school in the mornings, in the dark, on the street? Sidewalks are a must. We have to do it. And with this collaboration, we have come up with ordinances that are acceptable to everyone and help us to move forward.
Thank you. Same question to candidate Matthew LaHughes.
Could you restate the question?
Sure, sidewalks have been a hot topic. What are your thoughts?
Yes, they have been a hot topic. Obviously, it's been in the newspapers and everywhere else. I think for the city to grow where we need to grow, we need to look at this. We need to look at what types of sidewalks we need, and it's of course ADA compliance, size, width, that type of issue. I believe we also need to look at enforcement, code enforcement. Specifically, we need to be proactive. Code enforcement needs to go out and make sure that everyone's on the same page, so someone doesn't have to come back to the City Commission and say, well, you told me one thing and now I've got to do something else. I think that's important. Also, with gas at $4, getting to $4 a gallon, I think it's $3.87 today, sidewalks are going to become important, especially with children walking to school. Most of our schools are in older parts of town where there are sidewalks and kids can get to their school a little bit easier. But in the northern parts of town, there aren't any sidewalks. So we do need to work, and the master plan with the trails is a great place to start, but it comes down to we've got to make things happen from the City Commission standpoint. We've got to make sure that all developers follow the rules, and we've got to make sure that all sidewalks are connected in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Linda Agee.
I think this is one area where we have experienced a failure to communicate with our citizens. There was a study done by the U.S. Department of Transportation several years ago, and in this study, throughout this document, it states that citizens must be involved from the very beginning of any sidewalk or trails policy, and I don't think that happened. They stressed the involvement of a cross-section of citizens, including people with disabilities, people like architects, people that have experience in sidewalk, in creating sidewalks and the use of sidewalks. I don't think there was a group or a committee put together to do that prior to the enactment of this sidewalk policy. I think some of that did happen after the fact. So I think that one of the things that we need to do is learn from this experience and do a little more research, a little more analysis before we pass something into law to make sure that we consider the impact that's going to have on the people that it affects.
Thank you for rebuttal to that.
Sure.
I would like to say that the Trails Master Plan was a plan that started, maybe 2 years ago, and it did involve a numerous amount of citizen input for the plan that was put together. An incredible amount of input from a diverse cross-section. There were people with disabilities that were part of that plan, and they were part of our previous sidewalk ordinance, and they were part of putting together the current sidewalk ordinance. The people that serve on the Trails Master Plan that took all the input from all the citizens and came up with a plan actually are some of the people that have been serving on the sidewalk plan also. So I would have to disagree that we really did have and asked for a large cross-section of the citizens, and we had a lot of input.
Next question is also to all three candidates. If elected, will you support the Shawnee police officers in the IUPA within reason? We'll start with candidate Linda Agee.
Support them. I'm not really sure what that means. Again, this is a union versus the management issue within the police department itself, falls under the purview of the city manager. And again, I'll repeat that if the processes and the laws are followed that are on the books, I really don't think that we have a responsibility in that area.
Candidate Matthew.
Again, it is a personnel issue. It goes through the correct channels to the police chief, then to the city manager, and then if it goes any further, it would go to the city commission. I don't believe it's our job to step in and take one side or another. That is not why we were elected. We were elected to govern the city as per the charter states, and it doesn't say anywhere in there that we need to take one side or another in a union dispute.
Thank you. Candidate Linda Peterson, same question.
If the question was whether or not we support the police officers, my answer would have to be an adamant yes. Do I support the IUPA? That is something that I probably cannot get into for the reasons that the other candidates brought up. But do I support the issues that are brought up from the union, let's just put it that way, as bargaining begins to happen? That's part of the negotiation process, and the commission does not get involved in that. However, periodically, we do have executive sessions where material is presented to us, what the union would like to have and what the city would like to have, and some things are policy changes, some things are wages, and we talk about that and understand where we are in the marketplace and what our officers are having to make decisions on. Do they stay here for this wage? Do they go somewhere else? Are the benefits here enough to keep them here? Is the environment good to keep them here? And what else do we need for them? We cannot do without our police officers. But do I get involved in the IUPA's decisions on what they want to bring to us? No. But will I support within the negotiation process? Yes.
Thank you. This next question is for candidate Linda Peterson. You voted to hire Dr. Collard and supported his policies, yet you voted to eliminate his contract. Can you explain why?
Yes, I can. I was part of the discussion that hired the city manager and also the discussions that severed the contract. And while this process has a degree of privacy to it, I can tell you that 4 years ago, the needs of the city were one thing, and the needs of the city right now have changed. 4 years ago, we hired a city manager. Well, we were in kind of like a budget crunch. We needed someone who could come in and understand the budget and help us understand the budget and where we were. We also had water treatment as a huge issue of what was going on in the city. And those were some things that were really, really important 4 years ago. Our town changes. And as things develop and as we learn more and we have other input from citizens, some things get resolved and then something else comes up. And I think we're just at a different place than we were 4 years ago. I cannot speak about the details of what happened with all that. I do support, did, do, and will support the performance appraisal process. I do believe in having objectives for employees that would work for the commissioners. And I also have supported doing the appraisal process and living up to it. I do not think that it is wise to wait and only communicate with performance once a year. That is something that I think every employee and employer ought to discuss more often than that. And I think that I have fulfilled that part of my obligation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is directed to candidate Linda Agee. Would you consider it a conflict of interest to sell city-owned Shawnee Twin Lake lot leases if you are elected?
I'm like any other person. If anything ever comes before the commission that would affect me personally, I would abstain from voting. However, as far as the sale of the Shawnee Twin Lakes, I don't think that's going to happen. I do believe that the mayor said that when he put that on the agenda for discussion, that the city attorney had told him that he thought those lots would have to be auctioned, that they couldn't be sold. And, you know, if that ever comes up or it comes back, we would just have to work through those issues. I personally do not feel like that the city should sell or auction those lots, either one. I believe that if you have to sell something to pay your overhead, then you're not managing your budget properly. And I think you need to make whatever changes are necessary to come up with the money to pay your bills on an ongoing basis.
Next question is for all three candidates. And we will start with candidate Matthew Liu this time.
Sounds great.
How do you envision the responsibility of mayor? Specifics would be the amount of time required to fulfill the duties of mayor and meet your current week responsibilities.
Well, the mayor's job is a non-paid position. It is a position that people are elected to, and they serve because they love their city. I believe it's important, if I'm elected, that I will serve this community. I will spend the correct amount of time working on city business, meeting with people that need to be met with. Sorry, but it's kind of interesting that I do have a full-time job. There's been quite a few mayors in the city of Shawnee's history that have had full-time jobs, and they have all done a very good job. I think that I could continue on with that tradition.
Candidate Linda Agee. Same question.
Repeat the question, please.
Oh, gosh, if I can read it. My eyesight is not what it was 20 years ago. How do you envision the responsibilities of the mayor? Specifics would be the amount of time required to fulfill the duties of mayor and meet your current work responsibilities.
Okay, my current work responsibilities are very non-demanding. I'm retired from the Federal Aviation Administration. I do have a little part-time real estate business I play around with. But I have all the time in the world to devote to this, and this would be my very first priority. I do believe that it will be time-consuming. It's going to take a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. I believe I have those traits and the qualities and the skill levels to devote to this. I do also believe in getting work done through others. I think that, no man is an island. And one of the first things that I would do is reform that Citizens Advisory Committee, because I believe that that's one of the most valuable ways that we can seek input from our citizens.
Thank you. Candidate Linda Peterson. Same question.
Same question. I do not have a job outside the home, so I don't have a conflict there with time. And as far as what I envision for the role of mayor, probably 2 minutes is not long enough. There are many responsibilities. The beginning, I think, starts with actually being a leader in this commission, bringing the commission together and communicating with the commission. The mayor has the opportunity to communicate with more people within and without this city than probably any other person. And the mayor needs to be available to do those kinds of things. Once you have the information, though, you do have to pass it along to others that need the information also. And some of it's for decision making and some of it's just for leadership. Within the city, we have many boards and commissions, advisory boards that we work with that bring ideas to us. And I think it's very important that the mayor play a role in that and at least attend those. My goodness, maybe even once a year. But when you talk about the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustments and the Traffic Commission and beautification, the Shura Board, all of those things, the mayor needs to have some kind of input on to understand that board's mission is the same as what is happening in the city. At the state level, there's many things that are important for this city that the mayor is involved in. Things like the Department of Transportation, the Department of Commerce. We get funding from the state, and we need to be top of their list. When they start thinking about ideas and what else they can do, they need to be calling here for some answers. At the federal level, we have representatives from our national representatives that need to know that they can call the mayor and they say, we have an opportunity to get something on a bill. We need to know what your top 3 priorities are, and I need that tomorrow afternoon. The mayor needs to be able to provide that. They need to be able to understand that and to speak intelligently about all the needs that we have here. The mayor does not act alone. Thank you.
All right, this next question is directed to Linda Agee. I'm going gonna have to get my glass out for this one. The handwriting is a little hard. I have continually read your negative ads which always portray Mayor Chuck Mills as the bad guy. Since he has attempted to bring growth, development, and a positive attitude to Shawnee, what do you plan to do differently?
Well, I don't have anything personal against anyone. I differ in the way that we approach things. And the approach that I would take on a lot of the issues and things that have occurred in the past would be completely different than what Mayor Mills and some of the other people on the commission have, the path that they have taken to do some of those things. I believe more in listening to the people and communicating with the people, getting the message out to the people. I don't know how many times that I've heard people say and seen printed in the newspaper where people write in and say, you know, what's going on with this issue? What's going on with that issue? Because nobody seems to be telling these people what is going on with the issues that are pending. And as far as what I would do differently than what the current mayor has done, I would really want to know specifically what that question entails before I address those things.
Okay. Next question is to candidate Linda Peterson. Why does there appear to be such a rush to find a new city manager? Do you think the new city commission should have a voice in that decision?
Based on a meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't aware that there was a rush. The meeting that we had was that we would go out and advertise at this point for a new city manager, but that we would collect those applications, those resumes, and we're not going to review those until the commission has a chance to actually consider what they're looking for in characteristics. This was not done in a rush. I think it is imperative that we try this step first. The city cannot afford the $30,000 or $40,000 for a headhunter right off the top right now. And I cannot look you citizens in the eye right now and say, I don't want to do my job first. You pay $40,000 and we're going to get somebody else to do this job. If for some reason we do not have candidates that are appropriate for what we are looking for, then that is the time to take the next step and look for our other alternatives. But right off the bat to say we're just going to go out and hire somebody and spend $40,000 for this, I cannot do it.
Thank you. Next question is for all candidates. We will start with candidate Matthew LaHue. This is a loaded question. Just give you a little heads up. How do you plan to balance the negativity associated with being a public official when opportunities to voice ignorant opinions through the News Star and Scoopy, do you feel that these sources are useful, and do you read them often?
Well, of course, I always do read it because every once in a while I'll be in there somewhere. With my job, I get a couple shots across the bow every once in a while. There is a lot of negativity in the city right now, and I think it goes back to there's a lot of people that are unhappy. Part of the job as mayor is going out and being a cheerleader for the community, going out and getting people involved in various community projects, commission projects, whatever it may be. I personally think that as mayor, we need to have someone who is a team builder, someone who can go out and get a number of different people from different parts of the community together to work in the same direction. And I think that's one thing that we've been lacking the last year is just there's so much infighting, there's so much bickering within the community itself that we're not looking to the future. And that's one of my strong points is the fact that I do have the ability to get a lot of people together and get them to look at long-range plans. And as your mayor, I would hope that I can continue to do that, and I hope that we can get Shawnee in the right direction for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from candidate Linda Peterson. Do I need to read the question again?
No, it's about balancing negative opinion.
Okay.
As a city commissioner, I won't say that you get used to that, but you do find that it's very important to find out what other people are thinking. And of course, the first instinct is, oh, of course, that doesn't matter, and put it aside. But really and truly, if you look at it, sometimes what it is it's maybe a lack of communication, or it may just be miscommunication. And I think it's very important that we take some of those issues and think, why did someone construe it that way? And what did they understand? And try to go back and figure that out. And as mayor, I think that's very important. It does not help this community to be negative. That does not help us. People outside of this community read that information, and that is not valuable to us as we are trying to grow and as we are trying to get people to live here. Communication is really the key to this, and as mayor, I think that's very, very important. Chuck Mills and I ran against each other 4 years ago. Talk about trying to work with your opponent. That was something that we both had to work on, and we are being criticized right now for being able to accomplish that, although everyone here wants to talk about why aren't we all getting along. And that's not fair. You can't have it both ways. Do you expect us to get along, or do you not? And I think we have at least made an effort to be able to communicate with each other, and I hope that I can communicate with the other commissioners when I'm mayor. We will not all agree on things, we will have different viewpoints, but we must listen to each other, and sometimes we might even vote the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to candidate Linda Agee.
We have, about 30,000 residents in the city of Shawnee. I think anytime you take a stand on an issue, a firm stand, you're going to create some negativity. And I welcome that feedback, because I always question my own assumptions. And I'm not too proud to go back and take a look at the decisions I've made. And if I'm getting a lot of negative feedback, then maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I need to go back and reassess that and take a second look. So yes, I do read the newspaper. I read the Shawnee News Star from cover to cover. I read and subscribe to the countywide News and Sun, and I read it cover to cover. I take everything very seriously. I read Tri-County Speaks, and I believe that sometimes when people feel like that they can speak anonymously, sometimes they speak a little more openly on how they feel and thinks, because they know there will be no repercussions. So I don't have any problem with anonymous responses like that. And again, I do believe that we need to listen to both positive and negative comments from our citizens.
Thank you. This next question is for all three candidates. We will start with candidate Linda Agee. How can we get the Regional Park Sports Complex / skate park started?
Well, it's my understanding that the skate park is a done deal. As far as the regional sports park, I have been to city commission meetings where I understand that they have gone out and done an appraisal on the land, and that there is a very good possibility that that purchase will go through. I think that's a great idea, to purchase that land. What I would like to see is maybe a little more commitment. Maybe there is, maybe I'm just not aware. Commitment from some of the civic groups in Shawnee. They're going to be utilizing that as a soccer field or a baseball field, and do a private-public partnership where some of the ongoing funding and maintenance, and maybe even some of the startup costs, are shared. And if one or more of those organizations can become an IRS 501c3 organization, then they themselves can apply for grants to help offset the cost of that. And of course, there's always the volunteers who are willing to help offset those costs also.
Thank you. Candidate Matthew Liu, same question.
I do believe the regional sports complex needs to be started as soon as possible. The sad thing about it is it was $1 million originally, and there's a little over $800,000 in the fund at the moment. And for what Shawnee needs for a city of this size, $1 million is not even going to be close. We're going to have to look at ways to raise more money to build this complex. And I will tell you from experience, I am a teacher and I am an athletic coach. If we build it, they will come. I can tell you that from major experience. If we build this complex, we will have people come to this city and spend money. We will have tournaments that will generate tens of thousands of dollars, that will stimulate our economy, that will help all people in various walks of life. I think it's an important thing. We need to step up and do it, and when we do it, we need to do it correctly. And a city of this size that doesn't have anything like that is somewhat sad, but I think, again, with direction, and moving in the right direction, we can get this done and we can do it right.
Thank you. Candidate Linda Peterson, same question.
The other candidates are correct. The skate park has been approved, and dirt should be turned, I would think, within 3 or 4 weeks. It is not at the same location as the regional park. The skate park was planned to put at Kids Space Park. So just to separate those two, they are not the same. The regional park, yes, took a different turn 4 years ago when the commission decided that instead of the North Airport property, that some other property closer to the interstate, closer to our retail business might be more appropriate, and have worked very hard to make that happen. Although the location that they were looking at has not been able to be worked out. Now, there is a location right now, and quite frankly, it's all been the work of our current mayor to try to make this deal work and to try to get this land. I believe that will be coming to us soon, and hopefully we can start the process there. We do only have $800,000 for something that could be much larger, but we have to start it. We absolutely have to start it, and I think the city's responsibility is to begin that process. It is hard to ask others to help and join in when the city's not ready to make that commitment or hasn't made that commitment first. So I think when the city makes the commitment and turns some dirt out there and we start having fields, that they will come.
Thank you. Next question is also for all candidates. We will start with candidate Linda Peterson. Would you be in favor of increasing the funding for the Expo Center, which currently is $600,000 a year?
Randy Gilbert's not here. Yeah. I'll tell you what, the Expo Center is a wonderful example of a group that has learned what accountability and therefore credibility means. They have worked extremely hard on their finances to understand who they are, what their money brings in, and what they can do with it. And this was no easy battle, I'll tell you. The city does provide $500,000, which is basically for the employees and the employees' benefits. At some point, sometimes there's extra funds that are left over from that, and they can use that to pay other bills, other maintenance types of bills that they have. The $100,000 is for capital improvements. And I think if that's where the question is going, would I be for making other improvements at the Expo? I say that as they bring things to us, we definitely put that in the mix of capital improvements, and we look at that. The Expo has done a wonderful job this last year of doing what they said they would do. When they asked for capital funding for specific projects, they really stuck to those projects that they said they were going to do. What that has brought about is them having now a laundry list, as long as your arm, of other things that they would like to do. It's part of competing priorities within the city. I think it's very important that our Expo remains viable, and we support that. And as we look at other things that the city needs to do, we definitely need to consider looking at the Expo and what we can do to help them from a capital improvement standpoint.
Thank you. Next, same question to candidate Matthew Liu.
As for increasing funding to the Expo Center, that would be something that I would definitely have to look at, the commission would have to look at. I think if we look at it as a budget item, if we increase funding for the next year, it may be due to inflation, it may be due to other things. $700,000 next year would not get you the same thing as $700,000 this year would have gotten. So I believe it's important. I do believe that the Expo Center is something that this community has hung its hat on for quite a few years. And it's gotten our name out throughout the state, throughout the region, and throughout the rest of the country. I think it's important that the city continues to support the Expo Center and its operations. And as for increasing the funding, I think that would need to be something that we look at down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to candidate Linda Agee.
The Expo Center, I think, is a very valuable facility. I think that the city should do as much as it possibly can to keep them operational. It's an asset to the community, and it also, I think, is a very positive asset that gives us some positive visibility beyond the borders of Shawnee. As far as funding or increasing the amount of money, that would depend on a lot of things. It would depend on how much money that they need and what the budget would allow. I think that we are in for some very austere times with the economy the way that it is. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. There's limited dollars. We just have to look at everything that is proposed and start prioritizing that and seeing where the dollars, where they all fall out. But as far as supporting it, I think that we should do that to the extent possible.
Thank you. We only have time left for one last question, and it is for all three candidates. Beginning with candidate Linda Agee, would you support a bond issue / debt to fund needed infrastructure implements?
We're going to have to get the money somewhere for all the infrastructure improvements. I know that Utilities Director Jim Beers has identified $42 million, and there's no way that we can get that kind of money by ourselves. We're going to have to go out and ask for federal appropriations. We're going to have to work closely with our federal representatives in doing that, and I understand some of that has already taken place, some of that dialogue. As far as a general obligation bond, that's one of the things I think that we have to look at. It's very possible. I don't think it's something that I can tell you sitting here right now without having the background information and the facts to say that, yes, I definitely support that. I think there's a lot of information that I would have to know and what the circumstances were surrounding that. And of course, it's something that would have to go to the vote of the people. But as for my support, I'd really just have to know a little more about it.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Matthew LaRue.
Would I support a bond issue for infrastructure improvements? Again, it would depend on what we were looking at improving. We know that there's a very long list of things that the city needs to improve. Water transmission, sewer transmission, water treatment, streets. There's a number of different things. I don't believe that the city can go in debt for that much. I don't believe we have the bonding capacity to go for $50 or $70 million, which is probably what it'll take. I do think it's important that we work, the commission and the mayor's office works with city employees to look at what needs the most work and what needs the most work at the time. Once we get those points fixed, we'll go from there. I would support a bond issue because the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. And I think that if we fix it now, we can move on to the future, to other things, and it will be better for the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Linda Peterson, same question.
The funding options for infrastructure improvements do include a GO bond, but they also could possibly include sales tax revenues and any additional federal or state funding that we can get, and of course, rate increases. So I think as mayor, it'd be very important to look at all the potential funding sources and how we're going to go about that. A GO bond issue for us, for this city, is probably only worth about $5 or $6 million. So it doesn't even scratch the surface of the $40 or $42 million that you've heard talked about tonight. But it could begin to allow us to match other funds that we could be receiving from other entities or from grants or from the federal government. So it is an option. I don't know right now if I would say that I would support that as the only option. I think we have to look at it, and we have to look at the other needs that are facing the city right now. Infrastructure is huge, but it also is a vast topic that we need to talk about, and I know that there are priorities among that also. And there are also other issues that have been brought up. We talk about infrastructure, but streets are infrastructure too. Streets and roads and bridges are huge, and I think we have to look at that. And everybody has their list of wants, so I think we have to look at everything. We have to prioritize and then look at what our funding options are and go from there.
Thank you. At this time, each candidate running for the mayor's position will have 1 minute closing comment. And once again, we will do this in alphabetical order, so we will start with candidate Linda Agee.
Okay, I just want to throw out a couple of acronyms at you. Since we talked a lot about water, this is ARC and the high seas. These are my campaign promises. I will be accessible, responsive, consider your input when making decisions that affect you, and I will keep you informed on pending issues. The high C's will communicate, collaborate, cooperate, and compromise when it's in your best interest to do so. I think all of us here tonight are winners regardless of what happens on July 29th, because we live in a place that we care enough about that we're willing to volunteer the next 4 years of our time to make Shawnee the best place that it absolutely can be to live in. And I hope that you all go to the polls on July 29th and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from candidate Matthew Liu.
Again, I appreciate PAVE giving me the chance to speak to the citizens, both on television and in person. Shawnee is a wonderful place. That's why I'm still here. We need to work hard to keep citizens here. We need to work hard to keep the university students, the high school students here. And to keep these kids and adults here, we must offer better jobs, we must offer better services, we must offer things that we don't have now. And I think as your mayor, I will work hard to move the commission and the city in the same direction so that Shawnee can progress like we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from candidate Linda Peterson.
Thank you. Again, let me thank the organizers of PAVE for allowing us to all be here tonight. The past 4 to 6 years have seen tremendous change in Shawnee. When I came on this board, sales taxes were flat and services were threatened. Since then, there's been an upswing in business investment to the tune of over $200 million, and this is throughout the city. We've also had investments of over $25 million. And you know, none of this was done by the city alone, but with partnerships and relationships. I believe the choice for mayor is straightforward. Do you consider candidates with no experience in working with city government and city concerns, no track record in finding solutions to complex problems, no understanding of our financial priorities and limitations, and candidates who have something to personally profit from by being in the mayor's position? Or do you consider a candidate who is prepared to face the challenges that Shawnee has and will not have to catch up with everyone else? I ask for your vote as mayor as we work together to build, enhance, and strengthen our town. Thank you.
Thank you. You have just heard from the 3 candidates running for Shawnee mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, democracy is not a spectator sport. Please go out and exercise your right to vote. Please go vote July 29th. And I'd also like to remind you, because sometimes there is confusion in the city elections, wherever you live within the city limits of Shawnee, Oklahoma, you may vote for any of these people. You do not have to just live in Ward 2 or Ward 3, but you may vote for any of these people. And I think you've seen you've got some excellent choices this evening in regards to these positions. Thank you for your attendance and thank you for your participation this evening.